John Flansburgh of They Might Be Giants. Welcome to Something Different.
Hello. What's the name of the show?
Something Different.
Oh, excellent.
How appropriate for They Might Be Giants, right?
I guess so. I don't know, declaring yourself being different is kind of like saying, you're a hipster or something. I feel like...
I was a hipster long before these kids were even born.
But you can't say you are automatically not a hipster if you call yourself a hipster, I think.
Oh, man.
You're sort of voting yourself off your own island there.
You sound like Confucius. You're already starting off better than John Linnell.
I think I'm just confused, I wouldn't say.
First, on behalf of all the alternative geeks and followers, let me thank you from the bottoms of our hearts for simply being you and following your dream. I'm assuming you followed your dream.
I'll be candid, because when you say I'll be honest, it sounds like the rest of the time you're not being honest.
Exactly.
I will be candid and tell you that I was not like a kid who grew up thinking I'm going to be a guy in a band. I mean, I sort of learned how to sing and play at the same time in the band They Might Be Giants. So there was a little bit of kind of earn as you learn going on, and I kind of, I never thought I would be a performer.
Was it scary in the beginning, though? Not knowing?
Oh, it was really scary. I mean, scary, some people, some people just, that's their thing, that's where they, and I mean, I guess the truth is, it became my thing. It's definitely something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy performing. I really enjoy all the writing part of it. And it definitely animates me, and it doesn't drive me. I don't have stage fright, which I think is something that some performers, a lot of performers who are much more ambitious than we are, that's a thing that sort of that's the weird back and forth thing that kind of drives them crazy, is that they want that audience reaction, and they want that feeling that they're a big deal in the world, but they're also sort of the actual act of playing in front of people makes them, just kind of drives them insane. That's not the case with me. I actually have a very different sort of take on it. I mean, I feel, I really enjoy the sort of the kind of the math of performing a little bit. Knowing how, what's going to make a show fun for people is something that I think about a lot, just in terms of how to pace a show and things like that.
You seem very relaxed when I've seen you play, and that's got to come through as well. And
yeah, well, we've done a lot of shows. I think when we first started, we were so over-excited and over-caffeinated that we kind of we were sort of floating above the stage for a good portion of our gigs. But I think people, you come to realize that people prefer it if you're relaxed. I mean, I've had conversations with other performers about this thing. One thing that's really makes being in a band like They Might Be Giants very pleasant is if something goes wrong on stage, it isn't so bad. It isn't such a big deal. It isn't. It's not like people start glaring at each other and stomp off stage and yell at somebody. It's actually kind of something that we can deal with and roll with.
Yeah. And
sometimes it actually makes the show a lot more fun. So
more genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to lean too heavy on our authentic lack of skills as performers, but at the same time, it's nice to just be sort of working inside a structure that doesn't seem that uptight, about certain things.
Exactly.
I mean, we're uptight about a lot of things, but we give ourselves a long leash with that stuff.
And it's working, so just keep doing it.
Exactly.
So you're going to be touring in a couple months, the 30th anniversary of your major label debut, Flood, your third overall album. but the first on a major label. Were you worried at the time that you'd lose control in your creative license when you signed for a major label?
Oh, I mean, that's a really interesting, strange topic. I think the truth is that we were probably more nervous the first couple of independent records that we made. I mean, a lot of people, and it, I think we actually learned a lot about how to kind of control our own situation then. And we were very lucky in that we had a manager who really didn't fight us. Our manager, I mean, still our manager, didn't really fight us on a lot of things that, in retrospect, might have made more common sense. Like we didn't open for people, by and large. I mean, we've opened for, I think you could count the number of bands we've opened for on like two hands, and that's after like 30 plus years of doing shows. So it's we've kind of always headlined, which is a very different and much slower road to take as a band. And most bands, you're sort of, as you're coming up, the ability to get in front of another band's much bigger audience is a great way for people to kind of get to know who you are and, obviously sell music and just sort of get your reputation out there. And I think, from really the very beginning, John and I felt it seemed like it was pretty clear that we were very much a take it or leave it kind of band. Like, we didn't want to like push ourselves on people that wouldn't be up for it. So instead of like working, opening for The Cure and working that 5% or 10% of the crowd that would be into us while the rest of them drank beer and talked.
Right.
We just kind of took a lower road. It was sort of, we did a lot of smaller gigs and just headlined, and that allowed us to do our show our way and kind of evolve as a band. And there's an upside to it and there's a downside to it. But the thing is, when you're working with a record company who their only ambition is to sell a ton of records, and you've got like a manager who obviously is like his livelihood depends on your success, and your booking agent again is like has a real financial interest in kind of getting you over. Those are weird conversations to have. It's not just some like pure expression of art. Like, there's a lot of commerce involved, and people are just like, why are you being a jerk? Like, why are you standing in the way of your own success? Like, you'll be, you're talking to people who've done it a lot longer than we certainly had, and in some cases you're talking to people who've like, confected these strategies for band successes. Like, there was, our booking agent, a bunch of other booking agents had long done this thing where they do like double bills, like sort of co-headliner bills with bands that are complementary, but not like, but still like slightly different from each other. Yeah. So there's like the Venn diagram of the show. Like that was a strategy that when we're coming up was used a lot, like to get bands into theaters. Was they would take a band that would, two bands that would probably like fill a club, but couldn't sell out a theater, and if they put them on a bill together, they would be able to do a much bigger show.
Right.
And even that was something that we basically didn't do. So and that in retrospect that probably was a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
We I mean, I have to say, like, I don't have like many regrets about how we've done things, but there are times where I think we're a little bit orthodox. I mean, we kind of made up some rules for ourselves very early on and never really second guessed them, for the whole run. So
yeah,
but whatever.
It's funny to read reviews by critics versus fans. Either you get it or you don't, I think, when it comes to They Might Be Giants. Are there any interpretations or criticisms about the band that have rubbed you the wrong way?
I mean, in general, I think, we've taken the least crazy making path, which is like, we believe all the nice things people say and reject all the negative criticism. I think it's, I really, I don't really have my finger on the pulse. I mean, as I said, we wanted to do something, even from the jump, we were just we wanted to do something that was kind of extreme, and knowing that it's going to be, a different kind of enterprise. I don't think we were too concerned about persuading people, and the business. Critics are really trying to sort of their role is often to explain things on the and also kind of usher in whatever the next thing that's going to be the zeitgeistiest thing is going to be. I don't know.
So you take it with a grain of salt?
I don't have a beef with critics. I mean, one thing I was talking to my wife Robin about this the other day, which is about there's this thing about the nature of criticism, which is critics are when you don't need critics as a band, or if it's a play or if it's a band or anything that's critiqued. And this is true of fine artists as well. If somebody's reputation is either so large or so extreme that they don't need good or bad critiques, you tend to get much harsher critiques. I don't think we got any. For the first 3 or 4 years of the band, we were essentially critics' darlings. We got tons and tons of very sometimes really kind of blush-making reviews. I mean, I remember touring in England, and we'd be playing for crowds of 80 people. I mean, we were the least important band in music at the time, and we would get reviews that would be these guys are better than the Beatles. And you'd be what? No, we're not. I mean, I like my band, but come on, please. But the people who came out of the woodwork to support you as critics, were very vocal, and other than that, we were just basically ignored. And then if you start having success, or on the charts or something, then all of a sudden you're in the way, and that makes people that's something that if you're a critic and you don't like a band, you're just I don't want these guys on the radio. I hate these guys. So, but I think relatively speaking, we've had a pretty good run with the critics. I think the thing that's strange about a band like They Might Be Giants is that for critics to write about is that we're not satiring if the notion is They Might Be Giants is a band that has a sense of humor. Okay, well, what is the sensibility of that humor? Well, it's kind of tricky and a little bit elliptical, and it's not that straightforward. But what critics know in terms of bands with a sense of humor, oftentimes they're satirical bands or parody bands or pastiche bands that are making sort of poking at other things in the culture. Most bands that have any sense of humor in their sensibility are sort of outward looking. They're not inward looking. And so I feel some probably those strangest bad reviews we've gotten is this funny band isn't very funny. And then which makes me always sort of think well, those are maybe you should re-examine what you think our intentions are as a band, because for us, I think we were trying to figure out how to write songs that would hold up to repeated listening, which is a very different task than than just writing a funny song.
Right.
That's funny once or something.
or making a fun song that people want to hear.
Right, exactly.
I often get excited each year when the Hall of Fame puts out their nominees and eventually inducts people into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If nothing else, and I always kind of wonder, what if They Might Be Giants got in? At least it would be in my Hall of Fame. They Might Be Giants would definitely get in. But if nothing else, maybe a song at least. A large part of why bands do get inducted into the Hall of Fame, though, is for their influence on other artists. And I've noticed there's been a few artists like Open Mike Eagle and Modest Mouse and Weird Al Yankovic that have all listed you as influences.
I mean, well, I think that's probably I think in some ways the influence that we've had in the sort of in the pop culture there it's interesting. I think just by existing we have made a difference in certain ways. I feel like in some ways, like even though like I wouldn't say that MTV as an institution was like a huge cultural piñata for music lovers, but I feel like the way in which we approached videos, both in actually making them kind of a little bit more cinematically beautiful, even if it's just in sort of a Hard Day's Night kind of way, and then also just like not quite so leaden in terms of just like the way the performance was presented. I think that was very influential. But I don't anticipate we'll be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame too soon. I mean, I don't think the Pixies are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, not yet.
So I mean, I'm not going to even start thinking about it until the bands that are sort of obvious choices get there. But I mean, we've gotten a couple. We've gotten nominated for 3 Grammys at this point, and we got 2. And I think up until that point, I mean, all we ever did was make fun of the Grammys. And now that we have a couple, we really believe it.
Yeah. Well, you definitely deserved them.
Well, thank you.
Dial a Song. I remember in the early days of calling up the number. I couldn't call too often because it was a toll call for me, but Dial a Song, the concept was awesome, and it's kind of evolved into now you've had a toll-free number, a website, YouTube channel, email subscription, and I think even a smart app.
Yeah, there's an app. I mean, we only do Dial a Song years when we feel like up to posting 52 recordings in a row, which is a big we really have to like belly up to the songwriting challenge to do something like that. So we don't do Dial a Song continuously. We did it in 2018. We did a Dial a Song year in 2015, and we did one in 2018. And I don't know when we'll do it the next one. It might be nice to like be home. We were touring all through 2018, which made running it a little bit trickier at the end. Like our muffler was really dragging at the end. But
and it's a lot of work you put into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that people who don't, I mean, if you're not somebody who like listens to the Dial a Songs as they come out, they're finished recordings. Like they're actually, they're studio recordings of finished songs. So it's not like a demo service or just like we turn on our iPhone and recorded us like just making up a song on the back of a tour bus. Like they're productions and we make videos for them, and it's kind of. It's a pretty hardy amount of work. So we want it to be good. It can't just exist. So.
Right. Well, we definitely appreciate all the effort you put into it.
So I'm very curious. Like, what other kind of music do you spin on your show? Like, I love the specialty shows that just have like kind of keep the freeform radio alive. Like, what are you going to play after They Might Be Giants?
Oh gosh, I'm playing a lot of modern stuff. I browse YouTube and get a lot of new artists. But basically, I've always featured undiscovered artists, people that don't make the mainstream.
Uh-huh. Are you into Car Seat Headrest?
They're good, yeah. Yep.
I really like them. I really enjoy them.
And Ought, I love the band Ought.
Ought? You mean like
OUGHT. They've got a song called something.
Is the name like a reference to the decade?
I think so, yeah. And they've got a song about today's the happiest day of my life or something like that. And one of the lines is like, today I'm gonna go grocery shopping. It's just hilarious. It makes me smile.
Wow, it's funny. That's a really interesting. Do they sound like a band from the aughts? I mean, do they sound like an emo core band?
They're young. They're just kind of jamming and just free flowing, and it's fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been rehearsing the past couple of days for upcoming stuff, and so we're in a rehearsal hall, and there'll be bands, next door that are all, working bands that are just, there for the same reason we're there, and but a lot of times it'll be kind of like, bands that are about to record their first album or whatever, and we've been noticing there's a lot more guitarists like playing with chorus pedals and a lot more drum sounds that sound like it seems like the 80s are coming back sonically, which is really unlikely. I mean, I guess the truth is like Bell Bottom Pants came back, and that, as somebody who's old enough to have remembered it the first time, that seemed like something that would never come back.
Right.
So I guess chorus pedals and very tiny drum sounds coming back doesn't surprise me too much, but
everything gets a chance to be retro.
Exactly.
Well, you've got the show in New Haven coming up on February 6th.
Yeah, our retro show. This is the first time we've ever done anything sort of remotely acknowledging our. We've done flood shows in the past, and we've done specialty album shows when we've done stands in places. So like if we're playing more than one night, or if we're playing in New York every month or whatever, we'll do shows where we play whole albums, or we'll have some like angle on it. I mean, we've even done. I remember once we did 2 shows in Boston where we actually literally just split our repertoire in half, and we did A to M and then N to C.
Wow.
Of the song titles, and it worked out pretty well. Like it was not. There were a lot of hits in the A through M, but more deeper cuts in N through Z. But yeah, we're doing a flood show, and we'll play the entire album. And I suspect this time when we go to New Haven, we'll probably be playing it in reverse order. But the nice thing about the show is that it's we're doing 2 sets, and it's like an evening with type show. So we're not simply playing the album and then like saying goodnight. Like we can change up the rest of the evening any way we want, and that's most of the show. So even doing a tour of flood shows, we'll be able to get a lot of different repertoire in there.
Great, that's great. Are you gonna do like stories in between the songs like Bruce Springsteen did on Broadway?
I doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, we don't usually work quite that way. We'll probably talk about whatever happened that day more likely than regale the audience with sentimental tales of the past.
I'm way over my allotted time that I expected to be talking with you, although I could go on for hours. I've got to ask you one more question that I asked John Linnell. When you're on the road, is there any place you look forward going to because there's a restaurant or dive bar that has your favorite comfort food?
You know, all the cities that are kind of, just big culture cities. Like, I love playing in New Orleans. I love playing in Austin, Texas. We played in this tiny town in Texas called I can't even pronounce it right. It's like Helio. I can't even say it, but it was just this amazing sort of. It's where Willie Nelson started.
Luckenbach?
It's where Willie Nelson. No, it's like this town outside of Austin. You know what? There's like a Anglo pronunciation of it, and then there's like a Spanish pronunciation of it, and they're completely different.
Yeah.
It's like it's spelled like Helios, but it's the ways you hear people saying it different ways.
Yep.
Yeah, we played at this great little sort of I don't know how you describe it. It's like it's like a dance hall, like an old-fashioned Texas dance hall.
Cool.
And it's completely unchanged. It's like being in a time machine. So getting to play places like that, or just the more colorful places in the U.S. Even playing in like Seattle or Portland, those places have changed a lot since we started touring. They were much funkier when we started, but those are always the fun ones.
That's
the
great.
big cities, we don't get to move around that much. Once you're in a big city, you kind of have to stick to the gig.
Ah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
John Flansburgh, thank you so much for talking with me, and I can't wait to see you guys performing the 30th anniversary of Flood. All the best wishes.
Well, thanks for having us on the radio.